If we can create healthy habits with students now, then those habits can be replicated through their adult life. And technology is going to continue to change and evolve. The speed at which we have access to information is only going to grow exponentially. So if we can help students develop safe and healthy habits now, then the generation of students that we matriculate into college and career will be those leaders that will continue to replicate that experience for the next generation.
You're listening to the SmartSocial.com podcast, your trusted source for real-world tactics that keep students safe and help them to shine online. I'm your host, Josh Oakes. Each week, I sit down with K-12 superintendents, district leaders, and community voices who are shaping digital safety. We discuss wins, struggles, and strategies used to guide students so they can be safe and successful online.
Hello, my name is Luke Clamp, Deputy Superintendent of Charleston County School District. Charleston County School District is in the low country of South Carolina, serving over 50,000 students in 90 schools, and our county spans over 100 miles wide.
Welcome, Deputy Superintendent. I'm going to call you Luke if that's okay. I'm excited to have you here today on the episode. We're going to learn from you. You were a teacher for a while. I want to hear about that in a sec. Then you were an assistant principal, a principal, and now a deputy superintendent. And you're at the second largest school district in South Carolina, which is congratulations on that. But first, let's give you a pop question. Pop quiz. What type of teacher did you start out as?
I was a high school chemistry teacher, Josh.
And eventually assistant principal and principal?
Yes, sir. Serving at the high school level. 5 years as assistant principal and 10 years as high school principal.
And now you've got a 9th and 12th grader as kids. I want you to put that parent hat on in this episode. And I want you to have the district leader hat on, but also that principal hat on that you had for so long that I'm sure you miss, but it's a small town mayor hat. You probably had to put out so many fires and do so many things. So a lot of respect for you here today. Hey, welcome to our audience today. You know that Smart Social is honored to be sharing with you tips on how to keep your kids safe so they can someday be successful online. That means we wait until the age of maybe 16 if we can a little bit to get to let them on social media. I know they're going to hate me, your kids, but we want them to be kids a little bit longer and safe with you, the parent or guardian, protecting them as long as you can. And someday they shine online. And that's our dream, is that they start building a portfolio online and all those other things. Okay, so we're going to dive in today and we're going to ask the deputy superintendent today some tips on safety, some tips on disappearing messages. He's going to put his principal hat back on for a little while, his parent hat. We're going to jump between things and we'll get a bunch of other tips and stories along the way. So let's dive in. Now, Luke, after 240 other conversations with district leaders like yourself and superintendents nationwide in 43 plus states, we've heard some consistent trends. And I want to show you what we're hearing. And then I want to get your advice. And I will be taking copious notes. So for our audience, if you see me looking down, it's because I'm literally taking notes from Luke right now. So we're hearing that hidden direct messages are a problem with students. We're going to talk about that in a few minutes towards the end of the program. But think of Snapchat, even Instagram has the swipe up feature where all of a sudden the direct messages can become disappearing. If you close it and open it, it goes away. You got the dangerous TikTok challenges closer to COVID. We had the bathroom challenge. You've got the group text messages we're hearing about, which cause the fear of missing out, some bullying and stuff with a lot of kids in there. Students are now chatting with AI as a therapist. Yikes, scary. We're on the news, protecting kids for this. And there's sometimes chatting with unknown people. And then we're also hearing about inappropriate content that's off campus sometimes. And then it becomes a problem 8 a.m. the next day or Monday morning on campus. And the last one I hear from deputy superintendents and superintendents nationwide is there's a screen time and phone addiction that seems to cause all the rest of these. And I hear, Josh, if you can just get rid of the addiction, we might be able to fix the rest of these. I want your advice. Please tell us what you've seen as a principal. What are some of the biggest factors you see on the screen right now?
Well, Josh, it still currently is definitely a piece that's very concerning to us, is that screen time and the phone addiction. That is also something that's popped up and has become very frequent around our country. I'll tell you, as a parent, it's very important to me to monitor my son's usage of their cell phone. And parents have the ability to restrict and to really be thoughtful about the volume and amount of time that students have access to any sort of technology. And while these others are certainly very, very important, at the end of the day, it's about safe and thoughtful use of technology. And as a principal and as a parent, what I'm very eager and interested in doing with those with whom I have a chance to influence is encourage them to be involved. Encourage them to take part and to sit side by side with their students and understand their use of technology, whether it be for an academic use or a personal use. And something else that has really shown us really some great concern and pause is just how tech savvy our students are. And even when we set up guardrails and even when we set up ways to restrict access to certain applications or certain spaces, our students are very intelligent and also very curious. So we have to stay very aware as educators and as parents as the ways around certain guardrails and certain safeguards that we think may have created a restrictive access point, which actually lends them down to another space.
You know what I love that you just said, and I get to listen to lots of educators nationwide. What you just said was so relevant because a lot of us as educators, and we love our district leaders, our staff, and everybody else. One of the things I hear a lot is use the resources, and that's great, but that's more work on the parents. What you just said was encourage parents to be involved, and that means going straight to the source, the teens. Learn from the teens. They're the experts. They'll teach us. I love that approach. Okay, the next question I have for you, let's dive in now. In conversations with your staff, what do you hear them say is the hardest to keep up with? Is it social media shifts, AI, or is it student screen time habits?
It really depends, Josh, at this point on the age of the student, because what we're seeing is that students are accessing a cell phone, for example, as young as 9, 10, 11, 12 years old. And in our county and many counties around our country, students are provided a one-to-one device. So they actually have access to 2 different digital devices that can provide them information, whether it be for an academic or a personal use. In South Carolina, we've most recently created some legislation to create a cell phone-free academic environment. And that has really paid dividends to our students' focus in academics. What our teachers are saying in the classrooms right now in Charleston is it's a combination of screen time and applications such as AI. While AI is certainly very new to some and is going to continue to evolve, the amount of time that our students are spending on screens is still a top concern. And so our staff really wants to help students be aware that the resource can be used to support their academic learning, but it should not be used in a manner that would prevent them from staying focused and moving their academic and learning experience into a positive direction. So we encourage again, and we support inside of our system, a safe balance between screen use and internet access and computer use, as well as good old paper and pencil activities where students can really learn by using their minds to produce content that has an academic focus.
Nothing like that tactile feedback of a good old pen and paper. I love that. Yeah, a balanced approach. I think that's a great tip. Okay, the next question I have for you. We often hear principals say that they feel pulled in many directions when it comes to digital safety and engagement. And this has been you for the last several years. My question for you is, how can parents better partner with school staff, principals, counselors, and everybody else to support students around screen time and social media safety?
Well, first of all, and I'm speaking to myself here, Josh, as a parent, is get involved. And as being involved for me as a parent and as a professional, it means to listen and watch. And don't assume that time away from a family gathering or time away inside of your own home where your students may be in their room is safe. Be very inquisitive and be very curious. How can parents partner? First of all, crave opportunities to go and learn new information. Many times, schools and systems will create internet and safety opportunities for parents to come and learn new techniques and learn new information. Attend those as best you can, or if that content can be made digital and virtual for you, you can participate in that environment. And then secondly, in your home, be involved. Be involved in what's going on academically and socially for your student. Be curious about the applications that they have access to, and be curious about the content they're creating. For our parents, we encourage them as we encourage the students to understand that a digital footprint could be forever. And so be very thoughtful about anything you create and anything you use, because that digital footprint could be around for a significant amount of time. So how does parents partner? Again, Josh, it goes back to being involved. And then not assuming that quiet time is safe time. Actually assume that quiet time could be dangerous time. And we should be very thoughtful about the amount of time we provide for student independent or access to that technology and to those devices.
Wow, that's a brilliant one. I just wrote that down. Parents, if you're listening right now, assume that quiet time is not safe time. It could be very dangerous. I think that's a really powerful one. Absolutely love that. I also wrote down, encourage parents to be involved academically and socially. I love our listeners today. Academically, how are your kids doing we call it improving learning, and this is a problem with AI right now. How do we use it to improve learning so the kids are absorbing more and decrease cheating? But I love that you said academically and socially. How you doing on the inside? How you doing with your friends? How you feeling? Because the better we feel at school and the safer and more productive, the more we're probably going to learn, right? I love that you put those two together. Okay, for all of our audience members, you know that Smart Social hosts 50 plus live free evening events that are the new way to do parent events. We do huge giveaways each week. Parents are perking up right now listening. But last week, here's one of the big questions we got, and I like to present these in our episodes so no parent is ever left behind. They said, hey, Josh, what advice would you give a student to help them recognize some of the red flags of a dangerous stranger? Well, let's hear from a real student about how she might help a friend recognize these red flags.
If I had a friend talking online to a stranger, I think that I would feel a little bit uncomfortable with the whole situation. I would advise against it because so many indirect issues can come from that, and it could cause something to be worse than if they had just unadded them in the first place. Some red flags that I would have to advise them to cut it off with this person or to stop engaging would be if the person starts to get very involved in their personal life and they seem to be very intrigued in what's going on with them and wanting to know all little details about what they do and who they are, and just very personal details and things that you wouldn't normally share with a stranger in real life. If they're very persistent and constantly wanting to talk to my friend or constantly trying to be involved in their life or wanting to speak to them, I feel like that's kind of a red flag. Another thing would be if they ask them to ever meet them anywhere in person right from the start, if they feel a sense of being uncomfortable or their intuition is just saying it's wrong, or if my intuition is saying something feels wrong with this, then I think that's a major red flag.
Parents, come on out to our next free event. We have weekly live parent events. We do big giveaways. There's 3D printers, Kindles, Bluetooth speakers that we give away. You are automatically entered for a chance to win just to come to learn more about how to keep your kids safe. There's real teens in the program. A lot of parents say, whoa, I brought my teen and they didn't roll their eyes. That's because they're learning from their peers. And then there's a premium parent newsletter. Hey parents, if you're struggling, Smart Social loves you. Just a quick little update. We have an army of parents nationwide that do the research behind our app guides. We have the very best parent app guides on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Snapchat, Fortnite, Minecraft, Roblox, Netflix, WhatsApp, 450 more of them, but they're not just in English. They're in English, they're in Espanol, Mandarin, and 9 other languages. We've got live events. We don't call it anti-bullying. We call it protecting your child's confidence before screens turn mean. We've got a bunch of these, one of them in Espanol, live. And then next month, don't miss it. It's Snapchat and Instagram teen risks. Discover why disappearing messages and secret accounts appeal to teens, and learn simple ways to guide and protect your child online. Teens are welcome. We got a ton of late breaking stuff. Parents, if you are struggling, Smart Social's got your back. We love you here and we're here to support you. Okay, Luke, I want to dive back into your expertise. Some districts have said nationwide they wish they had more time to focus on student safety and parent engagement. What area would you tell other districts is the most important part to focus on to support parents?
Well, Josh, first of all, those 2 words are paramount: safety and engagement. And at the beginning and ending of every day, it's our mindset to create a space of safety for all students. And for that engagement piece, where I would steer districts towards is building that digital literacy for parents, really giving them an opportunity to begin as novice, to begin in a space of learning that then will create for them curiosity, which then creates confidence. So be curious about the types of interactivity that a student can have with a device, but then more specifically, how can I as a parent be proactive in my own home? Some parents don't know that they actually have privacy settings that they can put on their internet access point in their homes to prevent the access to certain sites and to certain spaces. You can restrict the amount of time that the internet and the Wi-Fi, for example, connections are available in your own home. And then you can pay very close attention to the amount of screen time that's being used by your children, as well as the applications that are most readily used. We did this at my own home. I had my own son do a screen time audit. Let's do an inventory of where we are all spending the majority of our time. And interestingly enough, between my 2 sons, a 9th grader and a 12th grader, while the amount of time was similar amongst the 2 young men, the applications that they were using were different. One was more of an entertainment lens, while one was more of a social networking lens. So then that allowed me to have a different type of conversation with my sons about what would be the safe, appropriate amount of time per day or per week for the use of that. So how does a district get involved? Well, districts, you can educate and be a part of this conversation. I believe the partnership between the parents and the district is paramount. And if we create opportunities and openness to have this type of dialogue, we can also put parents in a space that might have similar circumstances, and they can share their own strategies to create a way of positive movement forward for both the parents and the student.
Yeah, so well said. That partnership is so key. I love that. Okay, the next question I have for you. District leaders nationwide tell us that parent engagement helps them to get ahead of future student social media problems. What parent or student preventative education would you recommend to other districts to get ahead of these problems before they happen on campus?
So the first thing that we start with is just to really be serious about the acknowledgement that digital footprint could be permanent, that students and parents should pause and think before they post anything. And while the consumption of social media might not seem dangerous, it does have the ability to affect the way we think or believe something. So also be very critical of the content that you're consuming. So be preventative in a space of proactivity where you can really encourage and support parents in setting up good guardrails and safety measures for their students, but also be very critical of the content you're consuming so that it doesn't begin to really affect what you believe and know about a certain subject area. So I think that parents, again, are a key player in this environment because they spend significant amount of time with students, obviously at home and on the weekends and during holidays. But schools and school districts are very involved. A teacher has incredible intentional time with students each and every day. And we want to be a part of this positive maturation as well. So again, I go back to that mindset of partnership and the mindset of responsibility that each party would play in creating this environment for students is positive.
Luke, my next question for you is, what kinds of situations or issues have you seen that involved Snapchat when there's disappearing messages, or maybe on Instagram, the secret accounts that you can create, they call Finstas or fake Instagram accounts? And some of these instances could be bullying, harassment, inappropriate sharing, or students just sharing other stuff.
Josh, as my time as principal, I unfortunately had to encounter all of these situations. The space that popped up more readily than not was actually inappropriate content being shared through social media. On more than one occasion, students would share this type of content, believing that it would actually only stay visible for a short period of time, to then only find out that it had been screenshot and shared with others. And those types of additional sharing led to classroom, schools disruption, sometimes unfortunately separation from school based on consequences. And all of a sudden, a student's learning opportunity has now been limited by their irresponsibility with technology. So it's those types of situations that I'm most concerned about continuing. And so it's in those spaces that we've got to ensure that students understand you've got to think before you post anything, because that post could actually lead to dangerous circumstances. When I was serving as high school principal, I actually had a specific situation where a student shared inappropriate content. The student believed actually that it would be received in a humorous way, but unfortunately, the student did not realize that that particular content was going to be screenshot and shared with others. Unfortunately, it didn't disappear. It actually became readily shared with hundreds of students within the school. And almost instantly, it began to create a disruptive environment. This student, once then thinking that the content would be funny and thought so amongst his peers, was then found to have disturbed the school and actually offended others, which resulted in severe consequence. And so that one sharing where the student irresponsibly continued to post something resulted in a severe consequence that limited his access to learning and also had an impact to his future experiences on campus.
Yeah, excellent. Wow. That's devastating. And I'm so excited that we as educators and as parents are starting to have these talks with kids about the impact. And you've mentioned this a couple times, Deputy Superintendent. You've mentioned your future footprint and how it can impact it. That's so true. Luke, you took time out of your busy schedule to join us today. Thank you so much for joining us.
Well, this topic, Josh, is so serious to me, again, as I shared with you early, as both parent and professional. And our intent as educator is to create healthy habits. If we can create healthy habits with students now, then those habits can be replicated through their adult life. And technology is going to continue to change and evolve. The technology resources we have today, in some instances, we didn't have them 2 weeks ago. In 2 months and 2 years from now, the speed at which content is going to be shared, the speed at which we have access to information is only going to grow exponentially. So if we can help students develop safe and healthy habits now, then the generation of students that we matriculate into college and career will be those leaders that will continue to replicate that experience for the next generation. And that would be a tremendous legacy. What a legacy it would be that we actually use the technology to our benefit, and that the individuals that are learning and having access to it now become the pioneers of safety and engagement for the future. So I was honored to share this time with you today. For the parents and those that may watch this, we hope that you have learned something that you can apply both in your home and in your schools and in your districts to help create this environment to be safe for all of our students.
Luke, you should take my job. I think you're better at this than I am. That was very well said. I absolutely love it. And you're a great leader at the district you're at. For all of our audience, thank you so much for joining us today. Remember, there's no shame here. We all make little blunders and mistakes, and we learn as we go. Remember, it's all about keeping the kiddos safe, so the trajectory is eventually they're successful. We don't avoid the digital tools. We just make sure, as the deputy superintendent said, we monitor it and we have lots of check-ins, right? We stay close to the kids and we stay involved. That's really the key of this. As Luke said, stay involved. Parents, I want to leave you with one more tip. Whenever you're posting online, as Luke mentioned, remember to keep it light, bright, and polite, because your kids will model what they see you do because you're their first teacher. I'm Josh Oakes, the founder of smartsocial.com and the host of the podcast. So grateful for all of you to be here. We hope to see you at our next free parent evening event as we talk about all these incredible stuff. We have the very best experts, the very best teens, and we're excited to see you there. We'll do some giveaways. Hopefully you'll win something. See everybody on the next episode. Have a great rest of the day. Thanks for spending time with the smartsocial.com podcast. If today's insights were useful, please share the episode with a fellow parent or educator and subscribe so you never miss our next conversation. And parents, make sure to join one of our next live online events each week to keep your family safe and also enter for a chance to win cool prizes. You can learn more at smartsocial.com. I'm your host, Josh Oakes, and parents, remember to keep it light, bright, and polite because your kids are watching what you're doing online. I'll see you on the next episode.